Hi, my name is François from Zoebakes, and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to talk about flour, wheat flour in particular, and all of the different kinds that you are going to find. Different recipes are going to call for different kinds of flour, and I'm going to tell you why you really don't want to substitute one for the other. And if you do, you need to make some adjustments. So all the different flours have protein in them, and that's really the difference between a cake flour, all-purpose flour, bread flour, and whole wheat flour. So let's start with cake flour. Just as the name suggests, this one is great for using in cake recipes. So if a recipe calls for cake flour, this is what you want to use. Cake flour has about 7 to 8% protein in it, which is pretty low in terms of all of the different flours. It's going to give you a really tender crumb. It's not going to be tough. It's going to have like that melting, beautiful texture. The primary thing in cake flour is the starch, and the starch is it's almost like sticky. So if you squeeze cake flour in your hand, look at that, it all sticks together. This is why in most recipes calling for cake flour, you have to sift it because it wants to form little balls, and you don't want that in your recipe or on your hands. The next one is all-purpose flour, and just as the name suggests, this one is pretty much all-purpose. You can use it in some cakes, in cookies, in some bread recipes. It has like a medium protein content. I would say anywhere from 9 to 12%. When you squeeze this one, it holds together, but not anything like the cake flour because it has much less starch in it. So this one, you can also see it has like a creamy color to it. So all-purpose flour, just like the name suggests, is kind of used in all kinds of recipes. There's a really big difference between the brands of all-purpose flour. So some brands have 9% protein and some go all the way up to 12%, which is really on the cusp of a bread flour. So speaking of bread flour, that's this one. Bread flour is the highest in protein. Protein is what creates gluten. So when you add water to the protein in flour, you get gluten. That's what gives you the strength, the stretch, the rise in your breads, but you don't necessarily want that in a cake because that's gonna make the cake tough. So low protein for cake, high protein for flour. With a high protein flour, it won't clump at all. So you just have powdery flour like this. So when I was in culinary school, we had to identify the types of flour just by their feel. And that's why I'm squeezing them, because I can feel from each bowl what kind of flour I have. Obviously, you will mark your bins so you don't have to guess what kind they are, but you want to know how to use them. So high protein flour, great for breads, hence the name. All-purpose flour, sort of middle range, great for most things as long as the recipe is calling for it. And then cake flour, mostly used for like cakes, some muffins, even some cookies will have cake flour in it. And then the final thing is all-purpose flour. All-purpose flour is actually pretty high in protein, so it can range between all-purpose flour and bread flour in the protein content, but it also has the wheat germ and the bran still in it, which is why you have the darker color. It's healthier because it has those ingredients in it, but you have to understand that you can't necessarily replace like all-purpose flour with whole wheat flour, or it may be dry, because whole wheat flour has a protein content probably closer to 11 to 15% protein. That's pretty high, which is why it makes great bread, but it can make cookies and cake dry out. So if you're gonna replace your flour with some whole wheat, you may also have to increase the amount of liquid in your recipe. So those are the basic kinds of flour that you're gonna find in a recipe, and that's how they behave. So when you go to replace one with the other, you'll know how to adjust them. Thank you. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe, please share with your friends, please like it, leave me a comment about other things you would like to learn about, and please come back and bake with me. Thanks.